want to make sure everyone's clear on the area that we're talking about. As you can see, our boundaries, basically it's 1.2 square miles where the MID is located, and it runs from 7585 over to Juniper and Piedmont Park area, and then from the connector up north, just before you get to Buckhead, down to around Emory on the south end. So that kind of gives you the guidelines for the area we're talking about. Now, as we jump into the Midtown area and the program itself and what we're seeing in Midtown, we were able to experience a 28% decrease in the overall crime for the Midtown area last year. Now, that's against a very low base to start with, a low number of incidents year over year. And we also always have a low number of what we call person-on-person crimes or violent crimes, where they're stranger on stranger or considered stranger on stranger. We'll get to those in just a second. What we have observed this past year was the lowest number of person-on-person or violent crimes in the last 14 years, with a total of 69 incidents total for the year. And think about, that's an area of 75 to 80,000 people every day that are in our area, or 1 square mile, 1.2 square miles. It's the second lowest number of incidents overall crime in the last 14 years. And again, it's very unlikely you'll be a victim of a crime while you're here. Now, as we go and look at the stranger on stranger crimes I just mentioned, this last year we only had 17 that were stranger on stranger, or what we call pedestrian crimes, and 12 of those occurred between 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. As we look at property crime, we were able to see that there's two main crimes that drive our numbers overall in general, and property crimes as well, and those are entering autos and stolen autos. This last year for entering autos, we were able to see a 34% decrease in crimes in general. And the part that we want your help with is what we call the Clean Car campaign. We need everybody to be as educated as they can about not having nothing in your floorboard, in your seats, anything visible. We need everything out of plain sight. 85% of those entering autos at a minimum has an item that's attractive to somebody. They can see it inside the car, they can see it on the seat, and they break into it. So help us by making sure your car is cleaned out before you arrive in the parking deck or the parking here in Midtown. When we look at the stolen autos year over year, we were able to have a 37% decrease in 2022. And the frustrating part is 2/3 of those that were stolen this past year are typically unlocked, left running, and illegally parked in the roadway. We have a lot of incidents where people run into a restaurant to pick up something, or run into a store to pick up something. They leave their car parked on Peachtree or West Peachtree or one of the locations where we have vehicles stolen from, and they're left unlocked, running, and unattended, which is just a thief's treasure trove. They're ready for that, they're waiting for that, they're looking for that. So again, education in making sure we park legally, lock our car, take all our items out of it, and that will save you and Midtown a lot of headaches and protect your property. As we go to the next slide, we went back and looked at the start of the public safety program. The public safety officers, the civilian staff that we have, was added in late 2015. So 2016 was the first year it took root in the area, and we had them out there as a deterrent and a force multiplier, where that staff was able to work with the Atlanta Police Department, be their eyes and ears, and look for quality of life issues, as well as the small crimes or criminals who were looking to break into the cars and steal cars. When we looked at the overall numbers for the 7 years they've been in existence, we wanted to see comparison to the 7 years prior, and they showed some interesting facts. When we looked at the 7 years since they came on board, we have seen a 32% decrease in violent crime. The biggest impact they had that we can see just based on numbers is there's been a 53% decrease in pedestrian robberies. And as you guys get a chance to look at one of the attachments, the public safety summary, you can see the numbers specifically in there. When you look at pedestrian robberies, we averaged 28 a year between 2016 and now, the 7 years since the program started with the public safety officers, but we averaged 59 every year over the 7 years prior to that. That's a huge decrease. and it's more than our public safety officers that are out there. It's a combined cooperation and collaboration between all the private property, residential managers, commercial property managers, the directors of securities, the police departments between Atlanta Police Department, Georgia Tech Police Department, Emory Police Department, the Federal Reserve, MARTA Police Department, all working together to coordinate our efforts and make sure we're focused on the right thing that affects you and the Midtown area in general. When we go to the last slide and we look at the property crime that's occurred during that same time period, we also see a big decrease. It's 10% in general from the 7 years compared to the 7 years prior, but 2021 experienced a rather large spike in property crime across the entire nation. Atlanta and Midtown, no different. We had those two crimes, entering auto and stolen autos, increased greatly during 2021. So that kind of skewed our numbers for the 7 years, but that's an impact that occurred. So that makes sense to us, and here we are. As we look at our overall numbers, the main thing we want people to know is we understand perception may not always be the same as far as crime in the Midtown area. So we encourage you to be knowledgeable and educated on what's actually happening in the area, so you know where you can go and what you can do. Midtown is absolutely safe. It's good and easy to walk, and we need your help in calling us anytime you see something. Call 911 so you can reach APD. They want to hear from you, and Midtown Blue wants to hear from you. So we want you to reach out to us so we get to hear everything that's going on between the homeless and the people that are driving the crime. If you see something, say something, give us a call. Now, as we mentioned, and I think we've promoted and pushed out on social media, and for those who are attending with us, we had the Chief Shearbaum was going to be with us. He had something that pulled him away. So we were lucky enough to get Deputy Chief Spann, who was our major for a long time and did an outstanding job with us and for us. We truly appreciated her time here. She did an outstanding job. And so we're going to reach over and start asking her a few questions in general. And as we get started, we wanted to ask in general, if you will, Deputy Chief Spann, give us an overview of 2022, what occurred, what happened, what went right, what went wrong, and then kind of go into 2023 goals.
Good afternoon, everyone, or good evening, excuse me. I am Deputy Chief Princina Spann, and I'm here on behalf of Chief Shearbaum in his absence. And thank you for having me, Marcus, as well as Kevin. So as we reflect on the overall crime in 2022, thankfully we did end the year at 0%, but we saw a spike in pretty much all of our crime. And this year, I'm happy to report, currently we sit at 52% of a reduction in our homicide rate, but our burglaries, our homicides, our rapes, and robberies are all down so far this year. Of course, we attribute our success by the great work of the men and women of the department, specifically and significantly that homicide unit with the 52% reduction. But we also know that we had the intelligence to know what areas to be in. And then our partnership, of course, with our state and federal partners. Those are clearly influencing the homicide rates and what we have the ability to influence. And so we continue to do that with our partnership, as well as working with our community partners. Now, I will say our goals for 2023 is to make sure we continue to reduce crime in the city. And we want to do that by reducing crime at least by 5%. We also want to grow our camera network by 25,000 cameras through Connect Atlanta, which I've seen, and thank you for Marcus for putting that in one of the handouts. So it's handout number 2 for Connect Atlanta. We recognize that there are several private cameras and LPRs privately owned by different business operators or various private citizens here in Atlanta. However, we wanted to challenge the owners and some of you on this call that if you do have cameras, please consider integrating your camera into our system. If you go to our social media page right now, we have 2 stories that we highlight. They show the importance of integrating our cameras. One of them highlights the ability that we had to quickly locate an active shooter, which you all know about, that happened in Colony Square. And after killing 2 individuals, this particular perpetrator got into a cab. And we were able to locate her right before she went to Hartsfield Atlanta Airport to try to catch a flight out of our city. And so that was some of the great work that we can showcase with Connect Atlanta. And then we also had one of our elderly citizens who suffers from dementia had wandered away from her family in the middle of the night. And we were able to locate her with the great help of the camera system and the integration of different cameras in our system. So these are just 2 of many great testaments of how citizens and business owners can assist us by integrating their camera systems through Connect Atlanta. And of course, last, we are growing and we continue to grow our police department as we prepare to host different large events in our city like Super Bowl, the World Cup in 2026, and possibly the DNC. We continue to be, of course, successful in our recruit efforts, and we're so thankful that for that, we're going nationwide and recruiting different people who are willing to serve our communities. Right now, we have over 147 recruits who are currently in some phase of our training process. But our strategies still to combat crime include tackling the gangs, the guns, and the drugs. And of course, we'll continue to focus our efforts on juvenile crime as well as our repeat offenders. As you all have heard, the mayor constantly talks about the year of the youth for 2023. And he declared that this year would be the year. And so, of course, the Atlanta Police Department is always committed to increasing our resources and expanding our Police Athletic League, as well as our resources that we have with the At Promise Center. And if you all notice, just like how we have, and I don't want to steal Major Schiffbauer's thunder on this, but I do want to brag about our youth that were selling water on the 17th Street Bridge. As you all see, there is 0 tolerance for that. And so we take those youth, whether we have to unfortunately arrest them at times, or whether we can hook them up with different resources via our At Promise Centers or Chris 180. Those are just a few of the examples that we do. And of course, I'll let Major Schiffbauer get back into that and brag on his own team about what they're doing in Zone 5. But again, the repeat offender issue has also been very, very challenging in our city. In 2022 alone, we arrested 889 repeat offenders. Out of that, 55.3% of them were already on parole. Just imagine 57 additional percent of them were on probation. So that's already some form, over 100% for parole or probation. Out of again 889 repeat offenders, 33% of them were caught with a firearm on their persons. And so when we combine all of the charges of these repeat offenders, it totaled 28,966 arrests, which is insane. And then when you look at it from a felony case perspective, when you combine their charges, 6,039 of them were felony cases. So I do want to acknowledge the great work that's already being done by our Repeat Offender Commission. They continue to tackle some of those issues that we see, but the department, saying all of that, we are still committed to ensuring that we combat some of those challenging issues that we see. And so, of course, with APD staffing, because I'm sure you all may be asking the question about that. And Marcus, I don't know, can I keep going? Are you okay with that?
You're good. Keep going. You're hitting the highlights.
Right.
That's good.
All right. So with APD staffing, as I mentioned before, we do a great job with recruiting, but at the end of the day, we have to continue to invest in the officers that are already here, that are serving the communities, that are doing just a phenomenal job. And so with that said, our officers, they do deserve a first-class training center. They do deserve proper police precincts, as well as a modern and up-to-date vehicles. So we are excited about the new take-home car program. which right now we have already deployed 19 cars, and they're across all different zones. I'm sure that you all have seen some of them, but this is how we increase morale. This is how we retain officers, and this is how we ensure that we have the personnel that's needed for our large events that we plan to host coming up in the future. And so we're also excited about our new E911 center and our new Zone 4 precinct that's going to be built. This administration clearly understands the needs of the department, and they continue to show their support. The officers were given a 9% raise, and we also have given the officers a $4,000 retention bonus. And so we know that we compete with a lot of the agencies surrounding jurisdictions, but everybody wants to be in Atlanta, and they want to serve the citizens in the community of Atlanta. Now, Marcus, if I missed anything, tell me before I continue to go on.
I think you covered everything great and you hit the highlights. And I have one follow-up as we look at you mentioning specifically the number of criminals who have guns on them. And we know that entering autos many times end up having weapons stolen from them when they're in the city of Atlanta or anywhere really. How much of a problem is that? How many guns are you guys seeing that are taken out of cars because people will not leave them at home or follow the clean car campaign advice, etc.?
So I wish there was a magic wand that we could really go out and just really challenge people on the education of not leaving their weapons in their vehicles. Unfortunately, every other car has either a computer in their vehicle or they leave a weapon in their car. And so with that said, the city last year in 2022, we recovered 2,079 guns from vehicles. And that's just, 2,079 guns were taken. And so I know that Major Schiffbauer and his team work really hard, and he'll go into the numbers about the different recoveries that he's seen in the Midtown area, but it still remains one of those crimes that people commit, let's say like 20 to 30 of them. By the time that we reach them and we get them, we hold them responsible for the one or two that we are aware of. And so, of course, our investigators do a great job by trying to locate different evidence to tie them to different crimes. However, it's really, really important that you stress the importance of not leaving your guns to your family, your friends, your loved ones, whoever they may be. But these are particularly what people are looking for in these various cars in Midtown and the downtown area.
Thank you. I know we had a meeting recently with the law enforcement in our general area, and one of them brought up something I've never heard of before, because many times people will take their weapon with them and they can't take it into a certain location. So she suggested, and she tells people to take it apart and to carry part of it with you and leave part of it in the car. That way they don't take it typically because it's not a whole gun. So just a little something from outside the box. And lastly, if you can, you touched on the juveniles and the crime that's occurring. Can you give us some advice for all those people out there about if they approach a crime in progress, if they approach somebody that's breaking into a car, what should they do? How should they handle themselves? Is it likely that the perpetrator, whether a juvenile or not, has a weapon?
Thank you, Marcus. I think that's a great question. So I would say recently we have seen our perpetrators take matters into their own hand. And we certainly don't want you to be the superhero that I know you all are. Leave that to us, and please just be a good witness. The likelihood of these juveniles or anybody having a weapon on them is very highly likely that they do have a different weapon on them. And so we've seen a few of our homicides last year that were actually homicides of an interrupted crime, where somebody walked up to someone who may have been breaking into a car and someone was either shot or they were later killed. So I would ask that you all be a great witness, be able to provide a great description of that person that's breaking into a car, all the way from their hair, their clothing, glasses, whatever you see that may be distinguishing looking or not. It doesn't even matter, but just make sure that you can give a great description of that particular person. But please, I beg you, do not try to interrupt a crime in progress. the best thing you can do is dial 911. We do have a new software now that will prioritize calls. And so we can make sure now that you are getting through and providing that great description to those officers, including the vehicle that they may be operating at the time of the crime.
Thank you so much, Deputy Chief. We sure appreciate you joining us tonight. That's all great information and a great overview. As always, you did awesome. Thank you very much. And as we get ready to bring on the next guest, the zone commander for our area, Zone 5, as we bring on Major Brian Schiffbauer, we've been working with him for quite a while now. And as we tackled last year at 2022 and looked at the increase from 2021 in entering autos and stolen autos, he worked hand in hand and tirelessly with us to make sure that we focused on those as well as the violent crimes to make sure we could do anything we could to deter it. As we go to the Major, if you will, give us a general overview for the zone itself and more specifically the MID area, what occurred, what you guys saw, and what our efforts are going to be in 2023.
Absolutely. Good evening, Marcus, and good evening to the Midtown Improvement District. Very, very happy to be here. Very happy to be a part of this organization. So I just want to first start off by talking about Zone 5 overall. Last year, we had a great year. We had a tremendous year in crime reduction. We had an overall 6% crime reduction in all crime in Zone 5. And as Marcus stated, we had a 28% crime reduction within the Midtown Improvement District. So I was very happy with that and the work that your Zone 5 officers did. They did a fabulous job. I also feel that Zone 5 and the Atlanta Police Department has a great relationship with the Midtown Improvement District, in particularly the Midtown Blue part of the Midtown Improvement District. Just today, one of your Zone 5 day watch officers and retired Lieutenant Chris Tiernan from APD caught a burglary suspect that had a warrant out for his arrest. And Investigator Mauskas from the burglary unit took that case right away. And the location was actually 1197 Peachtree Street. And there's still one suspect outstanding, but that's just the kind of work that they do on a daily basis. So they took the perpetrator into custody without incident. He is residing at the Fulton County Jail right now as we speak. So great relationships, great things happening with APD in Midtown. So what the main trend that's occurring in the Midtown Improvement District right now are going to be auto crimes, larceny from auto and auto theft. That's going to go the same for the rest of the city as well, and for the rest of the country. It's ridiculous. So we make it far too easy for criminals to commit these crimes by leaving our cars running and not locking them and leaving stuff inside of our vehicles. And it's an appealing way for our youth to go into vehicles and get the high dollar things and guns and expensive stuff that they want that they can't get, so they go and steal it. So we have to stop making it so easy for them. With that said, I don't plan on changing too much of anything this year. We had such a high success rate last year with crime reduction that I don't plan on changing too much. I believe that a heavy police presence in an area, especially that has a high concentration of crimes that can occur, that high police presence, heavy police presence keeps it from occurring. So we have a traffic unit that spends a lot of time in the Midtown Improvement District stopping cars. Now, I just want to say they don't issue tickets to everybody. Not everybody needs a ticket. These traffic stops are to deter crime. Look, crime is mobile. Crime is traveling around, and they're using vehicles and stolen vehicles, and they keep stolen vehicles nearby that they steal, and they put the stolen property that they take from the vehicles in there, and they can go home at that point. So these traffic stops to a deterrent. So we're going to continue doing that, and I'll get into some statistics on the number of traffic stops and everything in the Midtown Improvement District here shortly. And then the next thing I wanted just to open with is some of the initiatives that I have for the Midtown Improvement District this coming year. The one thing that Marcus and I are working on is going to be the top 3 locations for theft from auto and auto thefts. And we are going to go and visit those businesses and discuss their current security plan and what they're doing. So one location last year, and I attribute a lot of the success to this, was the #1 location in Midtown. We went to that location and we had a talk with the management there. Everything changed from that day forward. So they invested in their business, they invested in the community, and they drove the crime right down. So they took our recommendations, and it was pretty good how that worked out. So that just goes to show how everybody's invested into the Midtown Improvement District. The next thing that we're really going to push and work with the Midtown Neighborhood Association and Midtown Blue is going to be the Connect Atlanta program. Our goal is to get everybody involved in Connect Atlanta. Listen, your officers use that FUSES program daily, and it works. It works. And I know that they were watching cameras today on Peachtree Street, and that's how they were able to catch that burglary perpetrator that had the warrant for his arrest. So it works. It's just it's such a great force multiplier to Zone 5 and the whole city of Atlanta. So it's working. So let's start with that, Marcus.
That is awesome. Thank you so much. And just touching on the burglary suspect and the BOLO that was put out for them and how they utilize FUSES as well as basically their knowledge of who's in our general area. Sergeant Christian McClendon is the one who assisted with in the past when we had the our Piedmont and 10th where the crosswalk is and the graffiti, as well as this person. She was a key instrument as part of our civilian staff in locating both of those subjects. She worked with our Midtown Blue APD Lieutenant Chris Tiernan today to assist in that arrest. So that is awesome. I wanted to give her a quick shout out. As we look at the crime that's occurring in our area, and the major touched on weapons that are left in the car, if you can, how can we get people, how can we educate, what kind of public service announcement can we give and go from Atlanta Police Department as well as Midtown Blue and Midtown Alliance to get the word out, what can be done for the Clean Car campaign and keep weapons out of vehicles. Basically, the numbers that you actually saw in Midtown area or the zone area, and what kind of impact that makes on what's happening out there.
Yeah, so I got to tell you, there's some pretty big numbers. You know, I'm on a different community meeting every single night, and it's just like that's what I'm always talking about. Remove the valuables from your vehicles, more importantly, the guns. As Chief Spann said, 2,079 guns were stolen from vehicles citywide. Okay, in Zone 5, 857 were stolen from vehicles. And within 503's beat, which is the Midtown Improvement District, 157 weapons were stolen from vehicles, okay? So it's, we need everybody to jump on board with this. We need security directors from every building, and we need citizens, we need workers, we need everybody to jump on board to hold each other accountable. Remind, hey, do you have a gun in your car? Take it out today. Look, if you have to have a gun with you, I get it, okay? It's important. Some people feel that they need to have it for protection, and I'm all for the gun rights and an advocate and all that stuff. But be a responsible gun owner. Buy a lockbox, secure it to your vehicle, put your gun into it. Marcus, man, that's a great idea for taking the weapon apart and taking a piece with you. You know, I got to be honest with you. These kids and people that are breaking into cars, they probably wouldn't know what a piece of a gun looked like. So, and they're not going to want it for that case. So what a great idea. But we all have to work together. We all have to hold each other accountable to keep the vehicles free and clean of valuables. If we're going out to Hudson's Grill to eat, man, if you're with somebody, hey, put that under the seat or put that in the trunk. A lot of times, and I've seen video after video of these, this is great. I've seen video after video of these criminals walking up to the vehicle They may check the door handle, walk away. They may look inside. And if they see something, that's when they punch the window. But I've got news for you. If they did not see anything in that vehicle, and if that door handle was locked, they would have passed it right by. So that's what I said. We make things way too easy for folks. And I would like to say that it's the majority of visitors that were doing this, but we're all responsible. I catch myself every now and then doing it as well. So let's hold each other accountable. I think that's what we need to do as coworkers, employers, employees. Let's hold everybody accountable.
Thank you so much. And again, just to reiterate that, especially in the Midtown Improvement District, but in Atlanta and the nation in general, we're talking about almost 3/4 of our crime in general are those two crimes. And a majority of that is preventable. All we need is education and being careful while we're out there. We also have already touched on the juveniles. Are you seeing a lot of juvenile crime in our area? What can we do to help with that? She touched on, the chief touched on the guys that are selling water at the intersections, and we have seen a marked increase in them not being around our general area, especially at 17th and Spring, which was a major hangout for them. What are you guys doing about that? What can you attribute to the success we've seen?
So as Chief Spann said, this is the year of the youth. Mayor Dickens is very big on reaching out to our youth and making sure that they're getting everything that they need to be productive members of society. And look, I think it's doable. So when it got to the point when the youth entrepreneurs were selling water at the exit ramps of the interstates, Williams and 75, Techwood and 75, 10th and 75, and they were selling water. Okay. But when it started getting violent and they started stealing things and taking people's phone and making improper cash app deposits and things like that, that's when we went to a zero tolerance mode. Okay. So ultimately, for quite some time, we were arresting these children on a daily basis. And we just didn't arrest them. We tried to mentor them. We tried to get them the help that they need. We tried to get them to our At Promise centers that the Atlanta Police Foundation sponsors to get these kids help. Look, I was at the At Promise Center today over on Metropolitan Parkway. What a great facility. And I'll tell you, these were top-notch kids over there. Those kids that are in there, they were some bad kids at one point. So just think that if we can get those kids into those facilities to get them the help that they need, what a great place it's going to be. Now, just to touch on something else, these kids that are out there selling water, they're the same ones that are breaking into and stealing vehicles. So after they get done selling the water, I guess if they didn't make enough money, they're going to go up to Midtown and they're going to try breaking into cars. So we are completely zero tolerance with this type of activity in the Midtown Improvement District, and we are impacting the crime. With our traffic unit and our field investigative team, last year alone on Beat 503, there were 9,414 traffic stops. And so many guns were recovered on those traffic stops. So many arrests and wanted people were taken off the street from those traffic stops of actual criminals. And on those traffic stops, we were able to develop probable cause to make 27 auto crime arrests, and those auto crimes included theft from autos and stolen vehicles from the Midtown Improvement District.
And let me add to that real quick. Each time they make an arrest, they're taking somebody off the street that's responsible for, who knows, 50 to 300 car break-ins, a number of stolen cars. So it makes a big impact on what we see here the next 1 to 7 weeks, depending on how long they're detained or out of the picture or what happens with them. So that's a positive thing each time they have that engagement for a traffic stop or an arrest. As we look at the overall crime that we're seeing in our general area, we've covered a majority of it. We have a couple questions that go beyond the general crime, and we know that a lot of the cars that are stolen are left running and parked illegally. We have a lot of people parking illegally along Peachtree Street, causing congestion and sometimes accidents. Are you guys able to make a positive effect and change that?
Yeah, we are, and we've actually started on that. So we are actually taking one of our downtown footbeat officers, and we're going to put them up on Peachtree Street. and they're going to go and they're going to conduct enforcement details. Look, we're not the kind of police department in Zone 5 where we want to come in and strong arm people, but when it gets to the point where crime is driven by inaction, we have to change the culture. So with that said as well, our desk officer at the precinct is actually monitoring the Fusus cameras, and when they see the car parked there, they'll reach out to one of their coworkers, and that beat officer will go over there really quick to handle the situation. In addition to what your guys are doing too at Midtown Blue, Marcus, they're helping out tremendously. We're also utilizing ATL Plus to come through and ticket some of these vehicles, and the initiative that you and I are currently working on, where we're going to loan a vehicle to you, so you can give it to the uniform officers, sworn officers that work Midtown Blue as a force multiplier for us, and it'll work.
Good. That is awesome to hear, and thank you very much. We appreciate that. We have a couple more questions that have come in, and we have other questions that we had from before today. Some are repeat questions, but we want to make sure we get everybody's questions answered, and we are running out of time. So we're going to try to wrap up today to respect your time, and thank you very much for joining us. We will get an answer to each of you for every single one of those questions over the next few days. So give us a little bit of time, and everyone will receive an answer. Please reach out to us if you have a follow-up question or need clarification. We want to make sure we get you the proper information so you're armed with what you need to know for the Midtown area, and so you can act and react appropriately and get more people to come to the Midtown area to enjoy themselves. We ask that everybody that's listening, please make sure you have a clean car, that nothing's in your cars, that you park legally and lock your car, but more so that you call us each and every time you see something. Our phone number here for Midtown Blue, our dispatch, is 404-505. I've actually messed it up. 404-817-0500. If you will, give us a call when you see something. We want to react. We have Atlanta Police Department officers that work for us. We can contact the zone officers and react to things. So please, if you see something, say something. Give us a call. Let us help you and react to things. The handouts that you received, you should have a link that'll give you the ability to sign up to receive the public safety summary that we create every other month. It gives you great insight to what's going on. We like to get that distributed as wide as we can so people are educated on what's actually happening in Midtown. Again, Major, thank you so much for joining us. Thank everyone for joining us tonight. Enjoy your night and have a safe day.